Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Mariner of Spirit. And I'm your host, Greg. We come to you tonight from good old downtown Lakeville, Illinois. And we also want to go ahead and mention a few things before I bring on my special guest tonight, who's a person that I really look up to. So without further ado, I want to mention those things that I had said before. I, I support a few different charities or organizations. The first one is the Jessica Petrie Foundation, and that's Howard Petrie's daughter who passed. And they formed a resource for expecting mothers and families, mothers pregnant and with mental illnesses. And Howard started this up to go ahead and because of losing his daughter, and he's plugging away at it. And he's one of those people that I respect in the community. Uh, and then I have three more. And the next one would be PKC, Paranormal Kicks Cancer, with Chris Gaskowski and Alex Wilkinson from down in Florida. And they do benefits all year long to raise money for cancer research. And they do it via haunted attractions, haunted houses. Uh, they do benefits that way. They'll have haunted events, and they do an outstanding job. The next one would be Tim Wiley in Photographs. Tim Miley in Photographs, and he's the guy that's been doing quite a few benefits, and they're very big events. I mean, he has a lot of people in the paranormal community that come in and speak for him, and he does it at established locations, haunted locations, and does an awesome job. I I really enjoy going to one of his events, and I've been to Ashmore Estates with Robin Terry, and they're just great. So if you get the opportunity, get to go to one of those, please. Hey, it's awesome. It's usually one day, and it's amazing. And the last one is last but not least. It's Mike Couch and Lost Limbs, and Mike is a gentleman who is now. This is the end of the foundation, but I'm going to do it all the way to Christmas. And he's sort of resigned from heading the foundation, and it's going to be dissolved at the end of this year, I believe. And he was another one of these guys that I knew over the years here, and paranormal events, and he was another one that did a great job. He had one that we used to do every year, and it was at Haunted R, and the Haunted R Theater belonged to Robin Terry, and it was another one of those knockdown. Every year we would have the same tickets, and before we left there, when it ended, we would have the tickets for the next year. So it was always us, and we got to see a lot of great people speak at it. And it was the first time I actually met Tim Miley, and I met. I'm looking right at him, and I can't think of his name. Boy, oh boy, that gets you, huh? I'll think of it anyway. Those are the things that I really support. And then the other one is just authors. If you get an opportunity, you want to go ahead and look at an author or some books. You got Heather Lee Langdon. You've got Ron Iacovetti, you've got Lynn Monet, you've got Dr. Rebecca Foster, you got Bruce Holliday, you got Rex Nielsen, who's he's running this thing tonight, this show. You got Todd Bates, and boy, oh boy, that's about it. I'm glad we got through that in like 4 or 5 minutes. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring my guest out. This is Philip Wyatt, and he's from Georgia Paranormal Investigations. He is a associated, or he runs with Heather Lee Langdon. They run Paranormal 101 or Ghost Ed 101 or
Yeah.
whatever.
Ghost Education. Yep. 101.
Okay. As long as we get the 101 right, we're okay.
Easy to find it with that.
So, it's great having you on. It's every couple of years, I always like to go ahead and get back to the people that I really like, and you're one of those people that always stood out because of the things you do and the investigations you do and how you keep a clean house, which is of vital importance when it comes to paranormal investigations. Why don't you start off by giving people a little idea of how long you've been doing this and how many curlers you put in women's hair over the years.
That I've lost count, enough to give me carpal tunnel. So yeah, that's my day job. I have a hair salon, so yeah, I do that in the daytime and look for ghosts in the nighttime. So, but I've been paranormal investigating. Ooh, gosh, I don't know, 10, 15 years. It flies by. I don't even count it. I just do it. I mean, I've been seeing dead people for, most of my life, but that's different from paranormal investigating. That's something totally different. But yeah, and I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and my team is Georgia Paranormal Investigations. And like you said, I run a tight ship. You can just ask my team members, but we want to be the best. You have to do the best. So that's my motto. And I think Sandra from my team just popped on. I see her.
Sandra Renker.
Yeah. She's one of our team
Sandra.
members. But I just love what I'm doing.
I know you have a book out, correct? Is that your first book?
No. Well, it's backwards. It's right behind me. No, I've done a couple more, but this one has more its own scrying. I do water scrying, and this one's got more content, more written content. The other ones are mainly photo books of my images, and this one's got more on how to do it, what it's about, different types of scrying, and safety tips. Because when you're inviting spirit in to do anything, whether it's through a Ouija board or a spirit box or to show themselves in a bowl of water, it's still an open invitation. So you have to know the safety precautions of what your intentions are. So some of that's in this book too.
I know when I first listened to you, and it was before I even had the opportunity to have you come on the show. It was probably a year before that. And I can remember some comments that you were making on your show that you had back in the day with Heather Lee.
Yeah.
And I can remember the importance of those because they really dealt with, as far as the safety was concerned, of what we need to do before we start an investigation, end an investigation, and the things that we have to do. And I know that on my show on Wednesday nights, I'll start out with the prayer to St. Michael.
Yes.
Because, I want to do that. And then I have a prayer that I created for the end of the show.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes I remember it, sometimes I don't. And it was like, boy, I'm kicking myself from one end of the room to the other when I forget it.
I know.
because
It's
you
like,
know
oops, too late then. Yeah.
what if something happened to somebody? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Have you ever had any situations like that happen to you?
I've, the team, the Georgia Paranormal, I founded, and so I set the rules. But before, when I was on a team, they did nothing. I mean, if you wanted to say some kind of protection, a prayer, whatever you wanted to do, you could. But I had something follow me home, I think 3 times, which isn't really that bad. Um, Although I think there's something here now because I've got some things in the house missing, and so I, I don't. I think it's somebody playing tricks on me, but I don't have a clue who it is. I don't. I can't tune into it. But yeah, I've had things follow me home, and it would start with noises, then knocking on the walls, stuff like that. Nothing terrifying, and I just would say, "You're not welcome here. Get out. You got to leave. If you need help, I'll try to help you. But if not, just get out because I don't have time for this." And they listen. It was nothing bad. But that hasn't happened in years because now the team that I have, when we go to investigation, we have an opening statement. And you've heard those. I sent those to you, that opening statement and the closing
Yes.
statement.
Yes.
Yeah. And we always say those at the beginning of an investigation, whether it's a private home investigation or a historical fund investigation. We state our intentions, what we're there for, what we're there to do, not there to harm any spirits or make them leave, that whole routine. And then after we're packed up, ready to leave, we say the closing statement that you're not allowed to follow us home. You're not allowed to attach to any of our equipment, our vehicles, so on and so on. So far it's worked. But, when we're doing a private home investigation, I don't try to shield myself off. I need to be open to the good, bad, or ugly, to get the information if it's a client that's in need. If you're too walled up and white light bubbled and everything, you're not going to get everything. I mean, when you're coming from a mediumship standpoint, you're just blocked the walls up if you're so protected. So I'm protected in another way with friends on the other side, spirit guides. Things can come close, but they can't come too close. Close enough to get information, but not close enough to hurt you.
Do
So
your
that
guides do your guides have big like butterfly nets that they sort of put
oh,
over them and
they've got
lasso them out?
swords and spears and arrows, lightning bolts, whatever. It's worked so far. So
I know that we're making light of it, and sometimes it's not a
yeah,
good thing
no, because
because
it's
it's
serious.
so important to
Yeah,
know that you do have that. That's your ace in the hole.
yeah,
And I learned if I learned anything in the paranormal, it was you always try to protect yourself and everybody that's with you.
yeah.
That's your number one priority.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to check on your teammates through the night. Just whether they know you're checking on them or not, you have to check on them and just see how they're feeling, how they're doing, that kind of thing.
I know we had some situations. We had something really interesting that happened that I've never seen this before, and it wasn't really an entity or anything like this. It was
Yeah.
it was a little practice that somebody had showed us
Hmm.
how they did it. And what they would do is on the property line, whatever the building was, if there was a road there and then the property, we
Yeah.
would be on the outside. We would be outside the property line. And what they would do is they would pick up a rock
Hmm.
and they would put it in their pocket.
Yeah. For grounding.
Yes. And then they
Yeah.
would take it in with them through the investigation. And if they felt, or even if they didn't feel,
Hmm.
what they would do is say, "You are attached to this rock."
Ah, that's interesting.
And this is where you stay. You
Yeah.
don't stay with me, you stay there.
That's a
And
good
they,
ritual. I like that.
it was really very interesting. And a mentor of mine, Scotty Rourke, showed that and to me, and it was like, wow, I never even thought of anything like that.
Now I have black tourmaline in all my equipment cases, and whether it's the actual physical tourmaline or it's the intention I put into it when I put it in there, we're not sure, but I know when I see it when I'm packing up, I immediately think nothing's attaching to my equipment.
That's really, really good the way to look at that.
Yeah.
So, as far as your hello, what's going on?
Oh, because of the storms, I keep losing connection. And when I'm on my phone, it doesn't take me to the bottom. It shoots me right into the studio.
Okay.
So, hi.
Hello.
Just show Marilyn instead of you. She's right behind you.
Yeah, I'll try to stay on. If I keep getting kicked off, I'll make sure that I'll be back to shut down the show.
Okay, Rex. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we use StreamYard, and Heather has to run it because I can't run the streamers and banners and look at the comments. I can only do one thing at a time.
I just started doing this like this with Supernatural Inc.
Okay.
Because that's my family on this side now.
Gotcha.
And Katie have been absolutely awesome. Brandon Cooper is usually the one who runs is my producer, and
Okay.
they're all out in Dakota where Rex is going.
Nice.
So it's really something that I know we get to see each other about every 2 years. Have you been doing a lot of investigations this year?
We haven't had as many this year as last year, but I had a reorganization going on of my team. It's kind of a mess. I needed some people to move on that were not following our protocol that I had set for the team when we started. We don't do certain things. How can I put this delicately? They were going off the rails with things they were doing at investigations, like talking about spirits jumping through mirrors and portals in the trees in the clients' yards, and I just getting way out there. And I said, look, we don't do that. You knew that when you started, that we follow more, I don't want to say scientific, but we have certain rules and protocols that we follow on my team, so we don't look like a bunch of crazy, people. And they just kept doing it and doing things behind my back, and so I had to have them move on and find a team where they could do all that woo-woo crazy stuff that they were doing. And so I needed to get some new members, and which I have some amazing new team members. So I had a couple months of reorganizing and training, because everyone has to go through a training process with me before they go on an investigation. And then we do a training investigation. We have a go-to location called Stately Oaks Historic Site here in it's outside of Atlanta, just south of the airport in Jonesboro, Georgia. Look, they have a website. It's an amazing pre-Civil War house with a lot of history. And we get so much activity every time we go, so it's a perfect place to take new people to train on equipment and things. So we did that, and now we just had a private investigation 2 weeks ago. We just started finishing up reviewing. It was a 135-year-old house that this lady had bought and turned into her business, and it was a great investigation. We got tons of EVPs. I mean, just interactive EVPs, answering questions and saying things relevant to what we were doing. So And if you want to see it, it's on our YouTube channel, Georgia Paranormal Investigations. It's the latest video.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah,
really
and
awesome.
so we're interviewing a new client Monday night for an investigation. So, and we have a library talk coming up. We're doing a lecture on Paranormal 101, October 10th. So we're busy. We got things going on.
Do you when you said that you've got your rules and regulations,
Yeah.
do they vary from the private investigations to, say, for instance, the public?
Yeah. The historical places and places, where you can investigate, where you pay to play, we say, I like to do some more experimental things that we wouldn't necessarily do at a client's house, to test things in theory, like these pendulum boards I've got back here. We've tried those. Some other things that aren't your typical things that you'd use, like REM pods and EDIs and millimeters and those things. We try to do a little more experimenting at those places, but we would not do those things at a private home investigation, if that makes sense.
Do you limit your team members at a private residence?
No, not really. Because we have so many cameras running, and everyone has a body camera, and team members have their own digital recorder. So there's so much to review that the more the merrier. But we've got our protocols and things at investigations. When we get to an investigation, everybody knows what they're going to be doing. We don't get there and stand around and go, oh, who wants to do the baseline readings? Who wants to set up the DVR? No, it is itineraries done. So when we get there, it is bam, 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 and we're going.
And you set that all up yourself?
Yeah, well, we always, before an investigation, we'll have a Zoom meeting one night before the investigation, and I usually will ask, does anybody want to volunteer to do the baselines? Who wants to? Because some people like doing certain things,
Right.
Because the priority is to get the DVR cameras up, and they're usually working on that while I'm doing the walkthrough with the client. It's usually myself, and then I choose somebody else every time to do the walkthrough. And then the cameras are being unpacked and put together while we're doing that. And then by the time I'm done with the walkthrough, I know what hot spots and things where we want to put the cameras. And so we can get those up right away. And then we bring our own tables, and we set up our own tables, and everyone unpacks all the equipment and puts it on the tables. So we have everything laid out, and then we start pulling from there to place in the location. So we have
That's
certain
a great
things,
idea.
and it saves so much time. Instead of unpacking one piece of equipment and taking it to the bedroom, and then lay it all out. And then when at the end of the night, we bring it all back to the tables and pack from there. And I'm telling you, it saves so much time, this method. Because the better your time's managed, the easier things flow.
How many DVR cameras do you have?
We have 8, and they all have audio. All our cameras are audio, so which makes it so nice to review because you're not watching silent video. And also, if you think you get an EVP, we can timestamp it to another camera to see if anybody's talking. So it makes it much easier to verify things. And our cameras pick up so many EVPs. I mean, people probably think we fake half of it because we have so many, but our camera audios, of course, it costs a fortune. I mean, it was vacation for a few years instead of a vacation, but it's so worth it because they're so good.
That's unbelievable. You have 8.
Yeah, and so if we can get 6 team members to 8 team members out at investigation, we have 9. We interviewed a new one last night because we do have one of our investigators that's going to be having a baby in January. So, and not all investigators are always available when the client's available.
Right.
So I like to have enough to cover everything.
That's really great that you have it set up that way.
And
I think
everybody
it
knows
makes
how
so
to do
much more sense.
everything. Yeah, everybody, we have a equipment training at my house, and we go through all the equipment, and the new members learn how to unpack the DVR, how to set up the tripods properly, how to properly put the camera on, how to take it apart, repack it. Because our monitor, is like $400 something monitor, so it better be packed right.
Yeah, you got that right.
Because we can't afford another one. So, and then they learn, how does the REM pod work? What does it not do? What does it do? All those things. So everybody knows how to do everything, because I hate to get to an investigation and the one that knows how to do such and such didn't come this time. And so we don't have that problem. And everybody enjoys that too. Oh, that's Jerry. She's on our team.
You see what she says?
Yeah, but I sound like a tyrant, but we have a great time.
No, and I wouldn't consider that to be tyrannical. If that's the right word. I would say that you're right on point, and that's what a lot of teams need to do, just
Yeah.
like what you bring out in 101.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that's not covered.
Yeah.
People forget, they get excited.
Yes.
They're heading out, they're going to, and most of the things that we do, because we don't do very much or very many privates because of the liability issues.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Forms. If they contact us through our website, the first thing I do is I send them our questionnaire, which is a full-on, medications. Do you take drugs? To everything you need, you want to know. And then attached to that are permission to investigate forms. And we don't start looking up anything until they fill those out. And on the questionnaire, we have, do you own or rent your home? And if they rent their home, we have to contact them and ask them if they can get a permission to investigate form signed by the legal owner of the home. And if they can't, we do not investigate it because of that liability. There's plenty of teams that do. I just choose not to, because the possibility of a lawsuit is real, especially we're in the South in the Bible Belt, very religious down here. And if a renter has a team in and this team actually finds evidence and it gets out that this property is haunted, and the landlord that owns the house finds out that someone's labeled his property haunted and it gets a bad rep, well, that's devaluation of property. And, because it'd be defamation. So that's a, liability right there. So we're just very careful, as careful as you can be.
Well, it's not the point of being a Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just
it's business.
And defending yourself before you have to really do it.
Yeah.
Doing whatever is necessary.
We look at it like business contracts. You want this free service, this is the least you can do for us. You can guarantee that you're not going to do anything against us.
Have you done any out of state?
Well, yeah. Tennessee, we love going to the Lotes house in Franklin, Tennessee. That's another one of our second home places. It's been on Travel Channel. I think they listed it as the second most terrifying house in America, which I don't know why, because we absolutely love it there. Of course, I did get choked one night by somebody, but it's because I had on a Union soldier's uniform. I think that's why he choked me. But
wow.
It was a trigger. It was a trigger object. We like to experiment, like I said, with these places. So, yeah, but we only usually stick to like the surrounding counties, like up to 2 hours away is usually what we get, because there's so many teams closer to people that they would go with somebody closer. But there's plenty to go around, trust me.
In May, I have a brother-in-law down in the Keys.
Oh, yeah.
And I go down there, and I had the opportunity. Finally, everybody said it was okay if they dropped me off over at the fort that's in Key West. There's a fort there, like Mont something. I can't think of the name of it, but it was a Union fort.
Yeah, it was a bad one.
That was built before
the
Civil War, and that's where Robert the Doll is now.
Okay.
And I've seen Robert before when he was on Duval Street, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And he was in a regular house. I think they were right next door to the Pan Am building, maybe.
I can't remember. I've seen the house, but I can't remember.
Well, that's where I saw it originally. So then I went to see it this time, and I got into this fort, and I was picking up all sorts of different things just by myself in this fort.
Yeah.
Before I even got to Robert.
Now, was that fort used as a prison also? Didn't they use it as a prison for Civil War soldiers?
For POWs? I could have been.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I think so. And it was, from what I remember seeing about it, it was a horrible place to be. So because of the mosquitoes and the heat and the humidity and the dysentery and all that. So I bet you did pick up some good stuff there, because from what I remember reading about it was a horrible place.
And then when I got to Robert, it was like, hey, old home week,
Yeah.
Hey, Robert, how you doing? And I was all by myself. The whole entire time I was there, I was by myself.
Did he say hey back?
No.
Might be a good thing.
I think it's that dog that's more. Something's going on more with the dog than with Robert. At least that's the way I felt.
Yeah, I've never seen him in person. I'm gonna leave him alone, I think.
Well, it was like everybody always talks about Annabelle.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I think that for myself, and I haven't met Annabelle, but Robert seems to be a little more legit.
Yeah.
With the storyline.
We talk about this in our Paranormal 101 presentation. Our tulpas are thought-formed entities. The whole world has concentrated on this Annabelle doll as being evil. So all that thought form energy goes to that doll, and it may manifest it as being evil just from everyone's perceptions of it being evil. I mean, has the world made it evil, more evil than it maybe originally was? So, you wonder how much our psychokinetic energy plays into these objects.
I know that I had heard something from a friend of mine, and he had said that they created a tulpa at a Paracon.
Oh, wow.
And it was like something like 15 or 20 people that got together and created that. And then some of the people left. And then there was this friend of mine and some of these other people that were still together. And it was like, we have to destroy this.
Yeah. Good luck, because you created it. Now it's its own entity with its own cognitive personality.
Can you explain that to everybody as far as exactly, because I understand some of it, but when you get together, it's like a group consciousness, isn't it?
Yeah, that's basically what it is. All right. So, for example, has everyone heard about the Slender Man? Have you heard about the Slender Man? It's been several years since we've heard anything about him, but he was this fictional character that this author had created. I don't, if anybody's making comments if they know who Slender Man is. So he became this cult figure that for some reason the young generation, teenage population, really was attracted to this character so much that after a while people started reporting seeing the Slender Man, like sightings of the Slender Man. And then the case came about of the two teenage girls luring their friend into the woods and stabbing her like 20 something times because they said it would make Slender Man happy. Do you remember this case? I've got the details written down. I talk about this in our presentation. Luckily, the girl survived. She somehow, by the grace of God, she survived and crawled out of the woods and was found and lived. And the girls were, put in jail, psychiatric issues. I think they were later released, though, because it was psychiatric, attempted murder. So, but yeah, so these things, are in people's minds, and it's something that they say. All right, take another example. Is Sasquatch a tulpa? Has it been created through thought energy? And that's why sightings are so rare. We don't know. But getting rid of one after you've created it, that's hard to do. Now, there are servitors that are created by collective consciousnesses that are supposedly created to carry out a specific task. And they are supposed to have expiration dates on them, but I don't know how that works exactly. But if it's like your imaginary friend you had as a kid becomes real and its own person, you've got no control over it at that point. So I honestly, I wouldn't know how to get rid of it unless you would do it the same way you would do an unwanted spirit. But luckily, we've never come across that. So
it made it sound, the way they brought it up, like they had to destroy it.
Yeah, but
I don't know how they went about doing that.
Yeah, I mean, unless they all concentrated on the opposite of creating it to dissipating its energy and something like that. Now, there's a documentary people can watch called the Philip Experiment, and it has nothing to do with me. Have you heard of it? It's these scientists got these group of people together, and they were supposed to be contacting the spirit of this person. They gave them they gave this group this dossier about this person, Philip, and they're supposed to contact him through table tipping and different mediumship practices. Well, if I'm remembering this right, it's been a long time since I watched the documentary. There was no Philip in real life. The whole character was created by the scientists, but they had all this phenomena happening in the lab, like the tables levitating and all this stuff started happening. So did they create it with their minds, this phenomena? Because there was no actual Philip to communicate with. So they're saying it was all psychokinetic, the tables levitating and the Ouija board, everything they did, they had all this phenomena. So my theory is there was a rogue spirit said, I think I'll just jump in and have a good time. That's also a possibility.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Oh, that's Jerry. Yeah. The one of our big rules is everybody has to bring plenty of food to an investigation.
You don't want anybody to
I
be
eat during the night.
unearthed. undernourished. Well, that's the only way you can stay awake
Yeah,
very good.
because I usually work on
So,
Saturday, so it's a long day and night for me for investigation.
so the person that I was talking about,
Uh-huh.
and the reason I didn't mention his name was because for some ungodly reason I had forgot his last name. And I do this sporadic. It just pops, when
I
it's
can't remember
gone.
my own some days, so I know how it
And
is.
but this was Dr. Michael Lynch.
Oh,
I don't know
okay. Oh, yeah,
if
yeah,
you
I know who
ever.
that is. Yeah.
Okay, he's an unbelievable gentleman. Uh, I've had uh, a lot of different shows with him that I really paid attention to what he was saying, and he
Yeah.
covers every topic all the way across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that got me with what you were saying, and that's why I had to bring his name into it,
Yeah.
was that tulpa itself. Now, have you ever been involved? They always say that mediumship is pretty much equated to what they did with the spiritualistic movement in
Yes.
the
1800.
1890s or
Yeah.
whatever it was. Have you ever done any of that table tipping?
No, Jerry and I, so it's here. We got a table. It's in my dining room. We've just never done it yet. And I have gotten some books on how to do it, just never taken the time to sit and do it. We've done the pendulum boards. We've done the talking bowls, which are
Wow.
and these are corks. They're just taped to the bowl so I don't lose them. And they have a pin stuck in the end of them. So
They
you
look
fill
like they look like M80s.
So you no, they're corks. So you fill the water up to the where the letters are, and you can use it like a Ouija board, but there's nobody touching it.
Wow.
So we do, and then I have one with yes and no and maybes on it. Yeah, you can make these. Get these at Party City for like $7 or $8 the bowls, and they're big.
They have the letters on them too.
No, you have to buy those. I got those at Michael's, but so those are some of the things we experiment with when we do the fun investigations. We did a paranormal fundraising at Ghost Hunt event for Stately Oaks, and we used that, and we got it to move. We just sit around it, like you would a Ouija board, but nobody's touching it. It takes the human element out of it.
Can you see the vibrations from people in the water?
We didn't. Not to say we couldn't, but we didn't then.
You know what I mean? Just by having their hands on the table.
Not this table. This table weighed a ton. I mean, it was a big. It was an antique. Yeah, it wouldn't have moved where we had it. You couldn't have moved it. It was an old antique, giant wooden round table.
So we're going to go from there.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to go right into your scrying.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm really interested in the things that you've been doing and the experimentation on that level. And the pictures, have been that I have seen are really noteworthy. And I think that has to be brought to the forefront because this is just this is just as important as going ahead and using a spirit box and doing spirit communication. It's the same thing.
Yeah, the scrying is more for your own personal insight, whereas the spirit board, you're trying to get information at a location, where when you're scrying, you're doing it for your own soul and for your own enlightenment and insight. So it's still spirit communication, but you're looking for something a little different.
Well,
I mean,
I was thinking that if you would take a bowl like that
mhm,
to an investigation and you would flip people,
yeah,
that they
I've
probably get different results, right?
I've done it at an investigation before. It's just kind of a pain in the neck to get a big bowl of water in somebody's house. um, but I have done it at an investigation before. But it's not something I would do at a private home. Yeah.
No, do you have to? There's no real requirement as far as the amount of water you use, is there?
No, I've used this. I've put
Okay.
my camera over this and gotten images. I've been washing dishes in the kitchen and feel this urge, and I'll grab my phone and my camera, and I'll state my intention. Is there anyone here from the of love and light and the highest and best intentions want to show themselves? Take this opportunity to do it. And so it doesn't matter if it's what vessel you use. There are some that do better than others. Then that's what I do for my book. Those are done with a stainless steel bowl and colored lights and things like that. So they're a little more, they're better than this, but this could work. Yeah, I will. Like set up like this.
Oh wow.
And the it's always backwards. The colors from the light bulbs, these are stained glass light bulbs. So they have different colors, but I'll show you that's the cover of the book.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's one of my spirit guides. She's beautiful. But when you look close, it's going to be blurry with this camera. There are a lot of other faces that morph into one a lot of times when you really look at it. But yep, she's got eyelids, eyebrows.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's it's quite fascinating. But you don't need expensive, fancy equipment to do it. Anybody can do it, and it's in the book. You want to ask for the highest and best, or your ancestors, or your spirit guides, or your loved ones. Let me see if I can. This one's kind of hard on this camera. So, but mine are always more artsy. Well, it's hard to show in this camera, but yeah, there's her face.
Yeah.
With the hat on. But yeah, so you don't need fancy equipment to do this.
What made you go in that direction?
I've always been a visual arty person, but I can't draw. I have no artistic ability as far as like drawing or painting or anything. And I had seen it online somewhere that people were scrying, but they were getting more pictures that looked like negatives of a headshot. More like mine are very artsy, abstracty looking, and I think that's just my energy and the spirit's energy, the way we work together. Because some people get totally different kinds of images than I get, but I saw it online and I thought, okay, this is really cool. Well, I wonder if this works. And so I just started trying it. I didn't go buy anything. I already had I had a big stainless steel bowl in the kitchen. I used that, and then I just used a lamp, and I had a stained glass light bulb for something else. I don't know why I had it, maybe Halloween or something. So I tried that, and I started getting these images. But like in the book, it can become addictive. I mean, it's like when you get one, oh my God, you want more and more and more and more. But I kind of started it during the pandemic when I was sitting home bored out of my mind, thinking I'm going to go broke because my business is shut down. So I
Yeah.
just started working with it, and I started noticing I get the number 5 a lot, which is a spiritual number that has a certain meaning to it. I've gotten monkeys several times, so I think that's my spirit animal when I looked up what spiritual meaning of a monkey is. So I'm looking for specific things when I do scrying. Like I said, I ask for ancestors, spirit guides, just specific things. So that's what I'm intending to get. So, if you want to scry and say, I would like to see images of who I was in a past life, you can go that route. Or I need help with making a decision on should I do A or B, and do a scrying session and see if there's something in that water that speaks to you in an image that would help you decide. Because some people say that reflections in the water are the reflections of your inner spirit or your inner soul. Some say that it's a portal into another world, another dimension. So there are different theories on actually what it is. And some say we're manifesting the images in the water with our minds. But scrying is to get messages by supernatural means. So what's supernatural? Supernatural could be anything. It doesn't have to mean from the spirit world. But for me, that's what I'm asking for from the spirit world.
If you brought somebody in the room though that
Yeah.
had no training at all as far as a mediumship or
Yeah.
psychic abilities, that kind of thing, and you put them in front of a bowl,
Yeah.
and say, for instance, they wanted to see their parents who had been deceased for 10 years.
Yeah.
Would they be able to do that?
I did that with a friend once. He was here and said something about, I showed him this picture I got because it was really, really good. And he was like, oh my God, that freaks me out. And blah, blah, blah. And I said, it shouldn't freak you out because of what you ask for. I'm not asking for, the devil and his party bus to show up. I mean, you asked for certain things. So I got him to do it, and he did get spirit images. I don't know who they were. But as far as asking for specific people within mediumship, you don't always get who you're asking for. So it's the same thing. You can do a reading and have someone come in. I want to talk to my Aunt Betty. That's the only person I want to talk to. Was like, well, Aunt Betty might be busy over there. She may not come through. And Aunt Betty maybe have actually hated you and you didn't know it. So that's why I don't do personal readings very often, because people just don't understand. I mean, like I said to someone the other day, I said I could bring evidence forth for 5 people that I would have no way of knowing this information, and you've confirmed that's who it is, but I didn't get that one person, so I'm a terrible medium. So that's why I don't do it.
How long have you been involved on your mediumship?
No. I mean, I've always seen things that just always terrified me until, I don't know, about 10, 15 years ago when I got into investigating. I thought, I could combine these two things, because before it was a curse until I learned how and became educated and started getting trained, because they were coming at me at night while I'm trying to sleep. And I was like, this can't be the way it is. There's got to be some way to turn this on and off. And so I started doing classes and getting trained, and it all changed.
So would you recommend classes?
I would to anybody, because there are techniques, there are exercises you can do, there are things you can do to help you. There's also ethics of mediumship. There's some things you should just not say to a person that some people say, and it's just horrible. And I'm big on the ethics. A lot of people, you should never give a reading without it being asked for. Some people don't. Your aunt so and so's behind you. Well, I don't want to hear it. You just things you do and don't do.
Right.
So I suggest people getting trained, because there's ways to get more evidence, or how to not embellish the evidence, how to interpret evidence, how to ask your spirit guides for certain things. Like I was trying to work on names for a while, because names are really hard to get. So I was working on that for a while and learning how to get names. So getting training from reputable, really good mediumship teachers is, to me, very important.
Look at this. Here's another one.
Yeah, sometimes I have insomnia, so and it's odd, because sometimes I'll feel it calling me, like somebody wants to say something, and I'll
Right.
just, because I'll do a scrying session, it's like 30 seconds. It's not like an hour and a half process. I mean, most of my scrying sessions are 30 to 40 seconds, and I can get 10 images of spirit faces in that long. Now I can do it and get absolutely nothing at the same time. It depends on my mindset and doing the proper intentions and things. But yeah, and I'm just like, anybody awake? Look at this.
So with the show that you do with Dr. Heather Lee,
Mm-hmm.
do you have a sort of a format of subject matter that you're going to be doing for like this year? Is there some way for somebody to go and find a list of what you guys are planning on doing, or is that
Well,
just you fly by the
no,
seat of your
they're
pants?
booked. I mean, Heather has it all booked, but I don't know if she's put the list on our actual Facebook page or not. She usually announces it at the end of each program, like who's
Okay.
coming up. Like next Wednesday, we have two independent filmmakers that make some scary movies, horror movies. Evil Down the Street. Their names just went right out of my head. So they're going to be on. We started off very educational in 2020, like the basics, types of hauntings, what are residual hauntings, what are intelligent hauntings, equipment. We started out with the basics. And after, since 2020, we're kind of, we're branching out, but we have some amazing topics. We've had the Talking Board Society do a presentation on the history of Ouija boards, which was really fascinating. Just
Who did that show for you?
It was members from the Talking Board Society. I mean, there's a talking board. They don't call it Ouija because Ouija is a trademark by the toy store.
Right.
And there's a whole story about how that name came to be that I didn't even know about. The board named itself. Go back and watch the presentation, and you'll learn all about it. It's fascinating.
I forgot the name of the lady who has that big collection of boards.
Yeah, I'm terrible with names. Now, if I had done her hair, I could tell you her hair color without a doubt. But names, I have that with clients. I can run into a client out in public, but out of the right setting, I can't remember a name, but I can remember what color I put on her hair. But
we apologize to her for forgetting her name, because she's a lovely lady, and I had a great time.
She's channeled books through the Ouija board. And I didn't even know you could do that, which is fascinating. So
It's
yeah,
really something the way
you're
she goes
listening.
about doing it.
Yeah,
You
we're
have a
happy.
few. You have a few extra minutes, or do you have to go somewhere?
No, I don't have to go anywhere. I'm just
Okay.
um, yeah, go back and on our Facebook page, Ghost Education 101, and scroll through the old videos, and it's on there, the Talking Board Society. I mean, we
Did you
had,
ever plan? You play? Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
oh,
but if I don't say it, I'll forget.
yeah.
Did you ever think of going back and going back to the original show series that you were doing and actually rehab and go through
Yes,
all those techniques?
yes. We're going to do more discussion panels because people really like the discussion panels on the topics. Like we did one recently on gathering evidence with different points of view, from like the more scientific point to the mediumship point.
That was a good show.
And because both are needed, both types of investigating are needed as long as it's done correctly. Um, yeah, we're trying to mix it up a bit. She's
How's
already
it?
booking for next year, so if anybody that's watching has an idea of something, and we're also trying to get, there's a Paris. No, I'm sorry. There's a psychologist that's recently contacted me who does therapy for people who have trauma from paranormal experiences. And I find that fascinating because people who are in the paranormal world, like we are, when we have an experience, it's like, oh my God, could you hit me again? Now, if you're just a normal person and something like that happens to you, it can be traumatic. So he does counseling for that. So we're trying to get him scheduled because, oh my gosh, I've got a million questions I could be asking him because that's fascinating. Because I remember the first time I got physically attacked, it was traumatic, but it was life changing in a positive way. It was a wake up call. Like this is no joke. So that's
Do you
been
want?
my,
Do you want to share it with everybody?
oh, everybody probably heard it a million times, but yeah, this was, had joined the first team I was on here in Georgia, and I was kind of new. They were the team of Georgia back in the day, but I'm going to sidetrack a minute. But they really didn't teach me anything. I had to learn everything on my own. So my team, I teach them everything. And I tell them all the time, I may give you too much information, but I'm coming from a place of being on a team that gave me no information. Even when I asked for help, they wouldn't give it to me. So I'm
Wow.
making sure my people are loaded up with information. So anyway, there was this old school. This is way south of Atlanta, about an hour and a half, that the school is a community center and library and the police station. They have two police stations, two police officers in this little town. And the police station was in the old principal's office. Okay. I'm talking a little town. So we were doing, well, I wasn't giving it, but the team leader was doing a paranormal 101 presentation in the auditorium. And then we were going to divide up and do a ghost hunt in the school and show them how we do it. So, being a medium, I see things. And I'm all the way there. I'm thinking, what on earth could be in an old schoolhouse? Who would want to haunt a schoolhouse? God, I hated school. That's the last place I'd want to spend my my eternal years. So then when we got there, I'm like, oh, I see a man. There's a man here, and I really didn't say anything because I was the lowest man on the totem pole on this team, and they just didn't want to hear it. I could go on, but anyway, so presentation was over. We showed them how to do a ghost hunt. And there was a very young, and I'm talking to this man mentally, mediumship wise, I thought he was pretty harmless. And then after we're finished, we're all packed up, ready to go. One of the guests and her little boy came back, who was, I think, 10 or 11. And she said, we got halfway home and he started complaining about his back burning. And she said, I raised his shirt and he had scratch marks all the way down his back. And I was like, oh, crap. I said, I know it's that man, because that man was a pervert. I didn't want to say that because I'd gotten this information. So we're looking at his back and taking pictures, and the poor little kid's got scratch marks down his back. And we're like, oh, he'll be fine. He'll be, we're like, oh, crap, Should have had them sign a waiver, but they didn't. So anyway, they left. We're getting ready to say goodbye to the people that run the little place. Oh, one thing I have to back up. While we're setting up equipment, one of the policemen came in the building whose office is there. And I'm standing there by myself, and he says, can I help you? And I said, oh, we're doing a ghost hunt in the building tonight. And he said, they're here. That's all I'm going to say. They're here. And then he walked away. I'm like, oh, okay. A policeman just told me that. Okay. So now back to the end of the night. Myself and another teammate were standing there, and I looked down the hall, and all the lights are flashing on and off down the long hallway in the school,
Whoa.
just like in a horror movie. And I started laughing. I said, I think that man wants to talk to us. And he said, oh, that man you've been talking to all night? I said, well, yeah. And my teammate is a big guy. He was a Marine. He has, a gun on his ankle. Camera's getting blurry. He's a big, tough dude. He could kick your butt. So we're walking down. All right, camera, stop messing up. So we're walking down the hallway, and there's a 1930s part of the building and then a 1960s part in the building. So we're walking down, the lights are going off and on, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is freaky. And when we got to the line where it turned into the 1930s part, something hit us so hard in the chest and the stomach. It felt like I'd gotten hit by a truck or a wall of hot lava that went through my chest and stomach and back. And all I remember, I closed my eyes and I bent over, and I'm like it's like the breath got knocked out of me. I saw him flying up against the wall out of the corner of my eyes. I'm going over, and I'm trying to catch my breath. And I got tears coming down my face. They're like coming down because it hurt. And I was like, I started cussing like a sailor. It was like I was so angry. And then the other people started coming and said, oh my God, what was that? Are y'all okay? And I was like, I don't know. What just happened? And he's ever going, what in the hell was that? It was, I get cold chills thinking about it. If there weren't witnesses and it happened to both of us, no one would have believed it. So, I got my breath and I said, I'll tell you what this man looks like. I don't know if you can figure out who it is, but this is what he had on. This is what he looks like. I don't know his name. And the lady started getting out old yearbooks. I said, he's from the 50s. He's from the 50s. He's not, and she didn't have anything except from like the 70s on. I said, no, he's from the 1950s. I'm telling you right now, he's from the 50s. She said, we don't have anything that goes back that far here. We got them at somewhere else. And I was like, well, if you could find them, I could pick him out. So anyway, that was that. I was sore for 3 days. My ribs hurt. Wow. So that was a lesson that my team on the other side was showing me, that this is not a game. And I tell people all the time, this stuff is real. I don't care what you say, how funny you think it is, but that hurt. I mean, it hurt. I literally, my ribs were sore, like, I don't know, like I'd had pneumonia or something for 3 days.
Wow.
Teammates were calling, asking me if I was quitting. I was like, no, I'm not quitting. That was fascinating. How is that possible? I mean, it was a physical, I mean, I felt it, and he felt it and got flung up against the wall. So, yeah. And Jerry knows who I'm talking about if she's still on, because she knows who it is.
Yeah, she's on.
But so you can get hurt. Things can hurt you.
And that other person we were talking about earlier is Karen Dahlman.
Oh, yes, that's her. Yeah.
And she and Jerry brought it up.
Thank
so
you.
She gets the credit for that.
Thank you, Jerry.
So what I'm going to do is we'll be saying goodnight shortly, but I would like to go ahead and acknowledge everybody that's in the comment section.
Yes.
And we've got Anne Marie Young, we have Linda Kruger, we have Anthony Sabalos, we have Anne Marie Young, Danny Botts, Crystal Hill, Challenger 1534, Sandra L. Renker,
Hey,
Timmy
Sandra.
Corpse. We got Sandra L. again. We have Jerry Ann
Lessiker. Tassoni.
Tassoni. Tracy Rizzo. We have Tassoni again. I don't mean to call you by your last name, Jerry. I apologize. And Linda Morrison's here. Thank you, Linda. We have Jim Feister. Sandra again. And we have Liz Monet from overseas.
Oh.
And we have Joanne Stewart too.
Hello, everybody. I can't comment on chat, so hello.
It's awesome. Thank you very much for and Phil. It's absolutely great to have you on, and I'm sure. I think if it's okay with you, I'm gonna make it down to 6 months.
Anytime.
You have so much to share, and it's always great to have somebody that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, like I always say, I don't know everything, and I don't claim to know everything. I know what I know, and I'm happy to share what I know. And you might agree with it, and you might not, but I'd love to help you if anybody ever needs any help with anything that I can help.
One thing you may have to do is you may have to message me those two things again from the beginning, because I thought after you had mentioned them from the openings and closings.
Yeah.
I don't know where they are.
Yeah, I can email them to you. They're on. We've got them in Word document or PDF.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for being on.
My pleasure.
Great. And once again, it's Phil Wyatt, and he's from the Georgia Paranormal Investigations, a great group. And if you ever get the chance to go down there to Georgia, take a bite of peach.
Yeah. Thank you. Good night, everybody.